Wrestle Magic Pod, official sponsors of British Empire Wrestling.
Alright guys, tonight's episode of Wrestle Magic. Well, tonight we're doing something a little bit different. We're having an interview with somebody else that some of you guys might know about, some of you might not. Now, this person is making a documentary that I have actually become involved with myself recently, and I'm very happy to have this guy on the show. So, a friend of mine, I've hung out with him. We've been to Tokyo together. Tom, how you doing, man? What's going on with you?
I'm doing great, Maverick. How you doing, man? How you getting settled over there?
Not too bad, man. You know, new place, and for everybody wondering what happened to all Maverick stuff, yeah, I moved. I'm waiting for some of my stuff to come in. Not the end of the world, but you know. But yeah, man, it's been fun. Just getting settled in, and yeah, it is what it is, but we're getting there. What about you? What's going on where you're at?
Busy planning my next trip back to Japan for May. I was trying to get back for Golden Week, but I didn't realize that's in 2 weeks. So hopefully I'm thinking like May 10th to May 20th. I'm going to be back in Tokyo and kind of settling up the last little things for the documentary and kind of making plans, as we talked before, for the second part of it.
Of course.
So yeah, no, just getting some of the business stuff aside and taken care of, and then hopefully, with any luck this time, actually having a little bit of a Japanese experience other than like working. No, I'm very really excited, man. It was great to meet you out there. That was just a whole just one of the craziest things I've ever done.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It was a great trip. I really loved going to all those restaurants that all the retired Joshi women own now, all the bars, singing karaoke with you. It was a lot of fun. You know, we were just going out and having a good time, man. I really loved that.
Great time at Hoda's. I didn't get a chance to go to Kyoko's. That's on the. I didn't even get a chance to go to Todokan. And that was the one thing I wanted to do. That was the only thing I kind of wanted to do was visit Suzuki's store and Todokan, and that's the thing. Those are the things I'm doing on the first day when I go next time.
Hell yeah, man. I really loved going into Todokan. They have so much in there. It's like a giant archive, man. I loved it. But yeah, man, I mean, so this documentary that's coming out, it's going to be all about the Jumping Bomb Angels. I love the direction that we're going in and everything. I'm not going to give too much away because that's your call on what's going to get released, obviously. But yeah, man, can you give the audience just a brief run over what it's all going to be covering?
So we're in the process of, in post-production on a documentary called Angels of Violence and Grace, Jumping Bomb Angels, Joshi, and the history of all Japan women's pro wrestling. So more, in America, more people are familiar with the Jumping Bomb Angels because of their time in the WWF with the Glamour Girls. Their appearances at the first Royal Rumble and the first Survivor Series. But not as many people know about the home promotion, All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling, or AJW. Limited exposure in the United States. At one point in time, Akira Hokuto was a WCW champion. But these women haven't come over here as much. There's not as much exposure here for them. And when pandemic time, when I first really started getting into AJW through Minami Toyota matches, I started to research and couldn't find as much as I wanted to. There was little bits and pieces about, all these women out there, but it was a lot of major facts that everybody knew. There wasn't a story out there.
Right.
You got little glimpses of things, and even that, I searched up and down. I would just search different wrestlers' names on Google or in podcasts, or iTunes and different stuff, just to cut for the descriptions, just to see if names would come up. And very, very few things I was able to find. So, had met Itsuki Yamasaki, who you also, and are friends with.
Oh, yeah.
At a convention in New Jersey that they hold twice a year called 80s Wrestling Convention. Went to meet her there. She was just absolutely super nice. And then met her team, the guys that were working with her and helping her out because she had just started doing convention appearances. I think that was her first appearance in a while. Was talking to them and just mentioned this idea that me and my buddy Gabe had about doing a documentary about Joshi and just kind of catching up all the information that's not online or that's harder to find online. And she like lit up. She thought it was, you know what I mean? She got like excited about it. And then, you know, as you know, the people that I met that work with her, Rob, Mickey, Mario, I don't know if Elaine was there that day, but you know, met them like a week later at Goski, her restaurant in Manhattan. Sat down and talked, and like honestly, so you know, those guys are some of my really close friends now. Like, just have a very, you know, we all have some, you know, similar interests in mind, similar personalities and stuff. Mickey, I actually have a weird connection through MMA and jiu-jitsu through, because he was a professional boxer. So we have like a person that we know that had started with me, but had trained with him during his MMA career.
Okay.
Yeah, just a really cool connection. And then through that, Kino, you know, later on came in, who was friends with Itsuki, and who I'm sure your Wrestle Magic fans are familiar with from doing all the translations. But she's another one of the producers on the documentary. She's doing all the translations for that. Plus, she set up a lot of the stuff. Her, you know, we stayed at her house and used her house for some of the interviews. Like, Kino has been the unsung angel of this production.
Oh, definitely.
But, yeah, so once I set up and, you know, spoke with Itsuki and started really talking about doing a documentary. Her kind of first sentiment was, you have to go to Japan. Like, you know, you gotta go to Japan. So I was like, okay, and started to plan things out. The big thing at that time, because this was 2024, I think it was May, I met Itsuki, and then sometime during that summer, I went up. The first thing I filmed was a signing she did at the Wrestle Universe store in Queens with Bull Nakano. And sometime around that was when they had made plans, and Norio was coming down to North Carolina for her first convention back in the United States in like 30 years. So me and my buddy Gabe went, you know, trekked down there, met Norio, met Leilani Kai and Judy Martin, spoke to them and interviewed them, did a bunch of like, you know, really cool experience down there, meeting all of them. Real quick, just as because it happened down there, real quick, you know, memoriam to Dennis Condrey of the Midnight Express. I met him while I was down there, and he like couldn't have been he wasn't even a guest. I don't know if he came down there because they had some private signings, but I don't know if he was down there for that or he was just down there to hang out with like some of his old friends. But I met him and his wife in the lobby of the hotel, and like was real weird about going up because he wasn't a guest there. I really, you know, I mean, like I didn't want to bother him, but I knew it would probably be the only chance I ever had to meet him. So I went up, and he couldn't have been a nicer guy. Took a picture with me, sat and talked to me for a minute. Much like everybody else, he asked me about Japan and when I was going back, which is just funny because everyone thinks I'm Japanese or whatever because of everyone I hang out with. But I'm from South Korea.
Yeah, I hear that, man. And it's funny that you mentioned about like talking about all the women that came over from AJW and just kind of had a short stint in WWF or WCW. You know, you saw Bull Nakano, you saw the Jumping Bomb Angels for a little bit, you saw Kyoko Inoue, and then at one point you do see Monster Ripper was over there as well. I didn't really realize who it was, but she went under a different name and everything.
Rhonda Singh. I love Monster Ripper's work over there. I had a cool conversation with Mimi Hagawara while we were out there, and like, you know, asked her because she had worked with Monster Ripper a lot during her career and during her title run, and that was really cool. She had like a lot of like just really nice things to say about her, and it was funny too because Mimi retired in like 1980. 1981, like Mimi's old school. She was like, even at first when she started talking about it, she was like, you know, hey, can I talk about this? Like, you know, can I talk about that we were friends? Like, you know, behind the scenes, like she still had that kayfabe like deep inside of her. But yeah, no, Monster Ripper is absolutely amazing, and it's unfortunate that most American fans only know her as Bertha Faye and, you know, that work that she did in the WWE. But her work in AJW and a lot of the stuff that you would have seen from her in AJW, especially the stuff with Mimi, the stuff with Jackie Sato, that was within her first year to 2 years of wrestling. She was
Yeah.
the EJW champion within, I think, 9 to 10 months of when she started wrestling. They immediately like took her, and like knew she had the look to be a star, knew she had that it factor for what their crowds were looking for, and they just ran with her, and it worked, man. She was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, man, she definitely played the part. But one thing that I was wondering about, because you mentioned Mimi had retired in 1980, you said. So was she part of that the old school rule where it was like you hit like 28 or whatever, and then it's like that's it, you're done, or was that like
And
another
26. She was part of the 26 rule, but I might be wrong. I feel like she retired a little earlier because like her acting career was starting to pick up again, because she had acted a bunch, previous to doing wrestling. She was in Kamen Rider. She was she had a couple different things that she did acting wise, and then was singing also at that time. But I think that part of her career was starting to pick up, and she kind of just made that swerve like a little bit early over to the other side of the entertainment industry.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of people do go that direction. I can't blame them. Now, something I do want to ask you about. So, who are your favorites from AJW? Now, I feel like you can kind of split that into eras because there's so many stars that you can kind of pick out and be like, well, these two never really faced each other because they were just too far apart. But if I'm going to choose, I'm going to say probably Manami. I want to put the Angels on there, and then I'm probably going to say like Hotta-san, and then Kyoko Inoue is like right next to her. I kind of want to say they're like tied with each other. What about you, man?
Well, here's my thing. I always say that Manami's the greatest because she's so good and she accomplished so much, but I always say Itsuki was the best.
Yeah.
She didn't, if she had been around as long as Toyota, she would have accomplished all of that and would have done all that. She retired extra early, and moved over to the States. I mean, honestly, for me, I'm a big villain guy, which is also funny why, like, when I was a kid, I was so into the Jumping Bomb Angels, because I love Dump, I love Devil Masami, and I'd have to say, like, Monster Ripper and Jackie Sato from the early days, like their matches together were so good. And even then, like looking back at the matches with Mimi and Monster Ripper, she has the look, but the way she portrays it and like the presence, the way she makes everything feel, the way she emotes all of her feelings, her emotions, like the pain. I just love that, and that's big reason why I like Devil Masami so much. Like that. Her expression. There's one thing that when we interviewed her, we talked about her, and she didn't even think anything of it. Like, and that's, I know for a lot of the American fans, that's like, she's most known for her facial expressions and her screams and her builds up to her. Mm-hmm. It's like, she was just like, oh, that's what I did. But that, like, there's something about that ferocity that really just catches me in a match. So yeah, Devil and Dump are the two that like really rank high up there for me. Manami and Jaguar. Jaguar is probably one of the cleanest wrestlers I've ever seen as far as just technique, timing, and just that like unknown factor. You know what I mean? Just things not just being perfect. She was able to adjust and adapt in matches to make those little things that didn't look perfect feel perfect.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Someone that doesn't get enough on enough people's lists, and like to her credit, most of the women all the women you just named, and most of the women I just named were all trained by Jaguar.
Yep. It's amazing how well or how far they came all from Jaguar. She had to have been a master at what she was doing. And it's really funny to me because we got to see almost everybody that we just named in the ring at one point while we were just together out there at the Angels event. And I just thought, man, if you told me this a year ago, I would have been like, okay, you're smoking crack. What are you talking about? But no.
Maverick, I could not have said that better myself, man. I could That's a moment in time that we were very fortunate enough to not only be there for, but to to be a small part of. Having working with Jumping Bomb Angels and stuff as you have for the past since May of 2024. Honestly, it's a privilege and it's an honor to be able to call these people my friends, but also be able to be there for this kind of stuff. That was the biggest thing when we were setting up the trip. We were supposed to go. That was December when we were all just there. Me and Gabe had originally planned to be there in June to film the documentary. It's like when I was ready to buy my tickets around this time last year, around March, April last year, he called us all up to go ski and told us that she was doing this show. And me and Rob have a contention about this because I feel like maybe she didn't tell us she was wrestling, but she definitely gave us the impression that she was wrestling. And Rob swears up and down that he has told her nothing but I'm not going to wrestle. But I was telling him she's going to go over there for her show and just stand around. I don't think so. That's what you thought. I for some, maybe it was just my own ignorance. I just assumed the whole time that she was going to be wrestling. So I didn't even take into consideration that she wouldn't be. But yeah, that was awesome, man. That was a great experience. What was it like for the first time being in Shinjuku Face and getting to see the Wrestle Magic Pod logo up on a big screen?
Oh man, that was insane for me. Just feeling like, man, I worked my butt off up to this point, and it was exactly almost a year prior. I think it was a week off or something from when I had interviewed Itsuki. So that was the first Japanese interview that I had held and everything. So to me, it was this just came full circle in 1 year. Now I'm seeing my logo popped up on a screen in front of me at a huge event. And all these people are now having no idea what they're looking at, but they're probably wondering, oh, I should Google that or whatever. And it's okay, I've done something, even if it's not going to give me 1 million subscribers at once, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here because I love wrestling, and I know because you love wrestling as well. And that's kind of why we're doing all of this.
That's the only reason to do anything, man. Money comes and goes, women come and go. Life is fleeting. Everything's up and down, and here one day and there the next. All you got is the shit that's in your heart,
Yeah.
following, what you feel like you should be doing, and like I said, a lot of it. This whole experience so far has been completely surreal for me. You talk about this. You just started doing a podcast a year ago and everything. I saw the documentary only maybe 6 months or so before that. And to be in the ring, announcing the documentary, at that time, dude, that's just what things I couldn't even imagine. Oh, I have copies of the Weekly Pro Wrestling for you. I got to send over to you once you get settled and everything, and you're not going to get lost, everything lost. I have a couple of things to send you, but I got copies of that. And just since we're on here, and this is one of those weird copies I got taped.
Well, man, I appreciate that so much because, that's something that I wish that I had, and that's something that you say for me.
Kino and Itsuki's daughter Ruka, when it came out, we were all back in the States, but they ran around thanks to them, they ran around to different stores. I know Kino and Ruka and Rob too, before he left. They were running around to pick up copies for all of us and stuff like that. It was I don't know if we even mentioned it. That was the Jumping Bomb Angels 40th anniversary show, the Kariki Carnival. I don't know how to pronounce it right.
I think it was Kenriki, something like that. Either way, not our language necessarily, but we try our best. But either way, man, shout out to Kino and Rob and what was her name? Ruka? I didn't get to meet her, so not trying to
she was there. Oh, you didn't get a chance to meet her at the show?
I saw her, but I didn't meet her. No, we never like spoke or
The
anything.
show, I mean, the show was kind of crazy that day.
Yeah, but something now that I'm thinking about. So you got to be in the ring announcing to pretty much everybody that was in there, and Manami was in the crowd. You see the Angels were obviously backstage kind of poking out and everything. You see Dump is around. You know, we're making this documentary about them. How did it feel realizing that you're in the area that they kind of performed their craft in so many
Honestly,
times?
man, I don't ever get nervous for anything. Like I worked in film a lot and had to do a lot of different things at film festivals. Like I'm not the nervous person when it comes to talking in public. And so I don't know if it was just the wrestling ring or whatever, but I've never been that nervous talking in front of anyone ever before. And I just remember, it's funny too, because what I remember from it happening, and then luckily, you know, it was on video. So like I went back, you know, I can go back and watch. Like I thought everyone was so silent and like it like was freaking me out when I was there. And like, it wasn't like people laughed at things and like people were clapping and it was a nerve wracking. One of it is too, like, I feel like, you know, I mean, when I do this kind of stuff, I feel like he's like, this is something she wanted me to do. So like, in a way, I'm representing them, and I want to make sure that I don't make them look stupid by being a goofball, you know, who trips in the ring or says something really goofy. And I felt bad for Ruka because everything she said was 100% not what I said. Like I gave her what I was going to say in the ring or like before the day before. And when I got up there, I just started talking.
You might not have followed your own script, but dude, you were sweating like crazy. I remember thinking that.
Dude, I was, man. It was so hot up there, but I was so nervous.
And I don't blame you, man. You're in front of all these people and just hoping that you get it right and hoping that you do everything to really impress all those who are in front of you. Because once again, Manami's in the crowd. Somebody that we both are like fans of. You're seeing the Angels are out there. You don't want to fail and mess up in front of them because that's who we're doing all this for. And there's just so many others that we've already named that are out there listening or watching directly. And it's like, oh God, it's not just random people right now. It's someone that I watch regularly.
Up to respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what too, because we had interviewed Dump, you know, backstage beforehand. Well, not backstage. We've had a room on the other side of the building. So we got to do the interview with Dump there, which actually, like going back through all the footage, that was one of the only regrets was that it was the most convenient for her to be able to film it there. But because we did it there before the show, like we had to keep it to like a time crunch. And I wish I had a little bit more time with her. Everything she said was great. And just, yeah, she like, I wish I had had a little bit more time with her, but honestly, that was just like when we got there and we were setting up because they all knew that, like that culture and everything around that. Like we got there and like the wrestler, like a bunch of the younger wrestlers came up to us and were bowing and talking to like me and Gabe just because they knew we were there for Itsuki.
Yep.
I got to meet you. I'd seen you for the first time live like 2 months before in New Jersey. And I told Kino, I was like, oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait to see this girl. She was great. And like me and Gabe were setting up the cameras and she came over to say hi. And like, Kino brought her over and introduced her. Yeah, it was really something, man. Like and the show was amazing. It was such a great show. The dump match, the little talk. Okay, the talk show part was cool, but like I had no clue what was going on because it was all in Japanese with the Crush Gals and the JV Angels and Dump. The other matches were good too. Were really good. The tag match with Sorry and Team 2K, 2KG. And then the other title match, I can't remember who those girls were, but the Battle Royal was just so much fun to watch and see so many great wrestlers together and having like such a great time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really liked every match, and I think you left out the opening there because that was the tag match with Dump and is it Zap, I think, versus Miku Kane, and I can't remember her tag team partner's name from that night. Unfortunately, it's just slipping my mind. But it was really cool to see just because it was a bit of a squash match. But it's cool to see somebody that has that high of a reputation come in and still wrestle at that age and be like, oh my God, I'm actually seeing a match of hers. And I just watched the documentary about her on Netflix. And here I am actually seeing her still able to perform. I think she kind of was trying to do a squib spot, but I think she spit it out by accident. I don't know what that thing was.
I'm hoping she just got surgery on that knee that was bothering her, so I'm hoping that that her recovery goes really well and we get to see some more of her.
Oh yeah, I'd definitely love to see more of her. But we've talked a lot about wrestling itself, but the other side of this, you are a film producer and director. So I do want to ask you a little bit about that, because you worked at Troma, correct?
Yeah, I got my start at Troma. I got into film like real late. I moved back to New Jersey from Idaho, but that was I lived in Florida for just about 9 years. Was in New Jersey for a few months and then tried Idaho for a couple months, and that didn't work out. So when I came back here, I wound up getting a job and going to work at Troma for as Lloyd Kaufman's assistant. For anyone who doesn't know, they're the creators of the Toxic Avenger. They have like the longest running independent film studio in North America. Yeah, this is all rhetoric that I had to learn for different points. But no, they're just a really independent film company that, came to rise during the 80s, during the VHS boom. Did a lot of like horror and like midnight screening kind of movies released, distributed. Have a lot of their movies actually have the first movies of a lot of different stars. A lot of different people got their start with them. Everyone knows James Gunn had the same job that I had, before he went off and did all the big movies that he, Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff. And that's why my old boss, Lloyd Kaufman, is in Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad and stuff like that, because he always gives a little homage to like where he came from, which is kind of cool. But I mean, right down to Evan Hustley, who's the showrunner for Dark Side of the Ring. He got his start over at Troma also. So all kinds, all shapes, all sizes. But they were when I wanted to get into film and was interested in doing something different, because previous to that, all I'd done is like for years has been work in nightclubs or teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Troma was the only kind of company that would have given me a chance. So went over there, got to work on luckily it was right toward the tail end of Lloyd making his second to last movie, #Shakespeare's Shitstorm. So I got to work on a little bit of that, like mostly post-production stuff. I got to see, go through that process and see like some sales, marketing, distribution, like getting that stuff together. But got to work on a bunch of different music videos. I did a music video for Body Count, which is Ice-T's metal band that they show clips of on, I don't know, one of those talk show hosts that's like on the Epstein list talk show. One of those guys, I can't remember. He was on it. Couple other videos for the Central Media Records is the record label that does Body Count. They're like a metal label owned by Sony out of like Germany or something. Did a few music videos for them, and just to help produce some of the movies that Lloyd was distributing or producing along the way. But got to do some stuff with like the Suicide Squad, basically paperwork from my end, but got to work on some cool projects. So, but it's gaining that experience over there, and just like there with a company that was like everything was about independence and doing it yourself. So kind of really set me up to like go out and, decide when I was going to make my first film, like how to do it myself, and not only like how to do it myself, but also that I could do it myself and that I didn't need, a million people and $1 million to get things done. I just needed drive, work ethic, and, willingness.
Pretty much.
And good people around me. You got to get by with a little help from your friends.
Definitely helps out. But yeah, it's just kind of funny because if you guys haven't ever seen a Troma movie before, I will say right now, don't expect it to be a grade A, amazing Oscar-worthy movie, but expect it to be entertaining. All right? You will laugh, but might not be for all the reasons that you want to be laughing.
They're the essential B movie company.
Pretty much, yeah. think
But it was it was cool to get a start there of all places because I grew up watching those movies. I grew up like looking up to Lloyd because I came up from like punk rock. So, and that DIY ethic that like, we don't need them. We can do it ourselves. That kind of ethos has always kind of, been in me. So like that was a good, that was the right place for me to be at the right time in the right moment, and, definitely got the kind of experience that I needed from there. I didn't get the experience I wanted. I got what I needed, though.
Of course, of course. Now, I do want to ask you because I've seen a video of Lloyd, but I don't know how true to his actual personality it was. So I do want to ask you, what was Lloyd like on a daily basis? Who is Lloyd and what is he? What are his mannerisms? Who is he,
Lloyd is a now 82-year-old crazy Jewish guy that grew up in New York City in the 60s. He's a great dude. He's just wacky, and he's gotten away with being himself for so long that he doesn't know how to be disingenuous anymore. He lost that a long time ago, so he just kind of nice guy. Well, the one thing that no one actually sees is he's a really good family man. He's got 3 daughters, and his wife that he's been with since they were in college, right out of college, who's actually the film commissioner of the state of New York. That's a side of him that no one really gets to see. He's a good dad, and he's a good husband, and really cares about his family.
Seems like a good guy. I mean, overall, looking at some of the movies, it makes you question, like, what was this guy doing when he wrote this? But overall, the man behind
half
it.
of the movies in the 80s, like, his kids were on set. His kids were extras in a lot of the movies.
Oh, great. I never knew about that part, but that is kind of cool. A little trivia to know about. But yeah, if you guys didn't know as well, Toxic Avenger actually had, I believe, a remake somewhat recently.
The remake just came out like a year ago, but it was filmed when I was working with him in 2000. Oh no, actually, you know what? That was a post-pandemic thing. So that was probably filmed during 2020 or 2021, the end of 2020 or 2021. When that was going on. I had to do the littlest amount of work for that. We do a bunch of paperwork. And setting up his appearance in that, which he was in it for, I don't know. I'll be honest, I can say this now. I haven't seen the movie because I read the script like before, like way beforehand. And it, like, I grew up on the original. So there's something that like is not gonna, I mean, this movie was made for a different generation.
Okay, fair enough. I have seen the original. It was on like at a late night or something. I'm like, oh, what the heck is this? And I'm like, oh my God. I had to have been like probably 16 or 17. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm watching, but this is.
It was a rite of passage for kids in this, especially on like the East Coast, so finding their first trauma. Even my little sister, like we have funny stories about finding our first trauma movies.
Of course. And then there's wasn't Troma also the company that made Frankenhooker?
No, we weren't. Funny enough, Troma owns the distribution for Frankenhooker now, but Troma didn't make Frankenhooker. American Pictures, Frank Henenlotter was the director of Frankenhooker.
Oh, okay.
We can bring this back to wrestling. Little wrestling trivia. Patty Mullins, who played the titular character in Frankenhooker, is a good friend of one of my friends, Sheila Kennedy. But she appears at Steamboat. What is it? WCW? Not Rumble in Chi-Town. Steamboat versus Flair, the last match of the series in 1989. He won the belt at Chi-Town. I don't remember what the last match is. The one that Flair won the belt back, and then Terry Funk jumped in the ring and Pyle drove him on that little table that didn't break and almost killed both of them.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
For that match with Steamboat, and because this was during that TBS era when they were trying to like make everything like, WCW was trying to make everything a little bigger than it was. They had 3 guest judges for the Flair Steamboat match. The one of them was like Harvey Schillinger, like a WCW guy. The second one was Jason Hervey, who is Wayne, the older brother from the Wonder Years, who actually is a producer with Eric Bischoff and does a lot of the like reality shows. Did like Hogan's Knows Best and a lot of those weird ones on VH1. But the third judge on that show was Frankenhooker herself, Patty Mullen, who definitely was looking at the ring going like, I have no clue what's going on here. They just got her because she was the Penthouse Pet of the Year that year.
Of course. It's unfortunate, but you know,
It all
you got to
comes
fill
back
the
to
slot
wrestling in
somewhere.
the end.
It always does for us. There's always something that's going to lead somewhere for you and I. Like, my girlfriend gets really annoyed when I'm like talking about something and then it's like, it kind of reminds me of this match and this storyline that happened. It's like, oh, great, we're going back to that again. But yeah, I feel you. You know, it's kind of funny just seeing how that goes back to it. But yeah, that's another one of those movies that I was shown. I think I was probably 18 or 19 when I was shown Frankenhooker, though, just because all the weird, goofy stuff that goes on. I thought it was still under, I thought it was still made by Troma, but I guess it sort of, since it's distributed by them. So yes and no. But yeah, that's another one of those movies that's like, if you watch it, I promise you, it's not going to scare you at all, but it's not quite as much of a horror movie as we'd say it's a horrid movie. But, but yeah, it's a fun one. And I do, you know, think that that's one that I will remember for a long time just because of all the things that go on during it. But anyways, so we've already kind of went back into wrestling a little bit. You know, WCW and WWF, they played a little bit into the Japanese, you know, the Joshi side of things. They didn't go too far into it, though, and they should have, I felt like. I believe Bull Nakano at one point was WWF Women's Champion. The Jumping Bomb Angels were the Women's Tag Team Champions at one point, and then you don't really see anything else for a while. And eventually at one point, I believe the women's division just kind of fizzled out to nothing at one point, I believe. And
Well, yeah, it was through most of the mid 90s pretty much from the time that Alondra Blaze left, Medusa left, up until, I mean, when they bring that that women's belt back with the red, like, Chinese star looking thing around it, like that weird, that was like that was very late night. Probably at least a couple years where that belt wasn't around, but I mean, from a lot of the time, but even when the belt was around, they didn't really use it.
yeah,
If you think about WrestleMania 1 through 10, I can only definitely name two women's matches between WrestleMania 1 and WrestleMania 10. WrestleMania 1 had Wendy Richter and Leilani Kai, and WrestleMania 10 had Alondra Blaze and Leilani Kai. But I'm struggling to think of another women's title match between those WrestleManias.
I can't think of any either. And it's kind of funny because I recently watched something that was I believe it was highlights of WrestleMania 1 through 10. And in that whole disc, they didn't show any women's matches. So that just proves more into your point, honestly. It's kind of weird how that goes. And yeah, I can't really think of much either at that point. And then you kind of get into the deeper part of the Attitude Era where it's all, you know.
It's not women's wrestling, it's women's, like, it was equivalent to like Maxim magazine or something. Like, there was no respect given to that part of it. Like, the women were out there to be something to look at, not to look at wrestle.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It wasn't wrestling at that point. It's more of, I don't even know what the hell to call it. It's just something to look at that point. And yeah, they were having like matches in pudding and stuff like that. It wasn't
And
like
they did the Jerry Springer show at a certain point, and that's all it was for a few years. It took, I mean, honestly, it really did, and that's why you at least have to give credit to those women. Like, yeah, not that I'm a big fan of any of them, but like the women like Charlotte Flair and Mercedes Moné and all them, like they kind of forced it so you had to take it a little bit more seriously. That's so that WWE had to take it a little bit more seriously. I'm a big fan of Charlotte Flair. I shouldn't say that, but you know, I mean, I'm not even to put any of the other ones down or whatever, like personally, but because of what they did, there was able to be a point where like women's wrestling is huge now. So I like definitely tip my hat to them. It probably took a lot more work to get where they were and to be noticed than it took for, a lot of men in that same position to get noticed.
exactly. And that's something that I did want to bring up as well is like AJW 80s, 90s, probably even the 70s, they had that serious women's wrestling at that point. And then looking at WWE, and I remember seeing the Jumping Bomb Angels when they came in at Royal Rumble and Survivor Series, and it's like they're running laps around these other performers, and it's just not comparable at this point. And I still remember seeing it was like, oh yeah, they're facing Rock and Robin. Okay, she's eliminated. Nobody even cared. It was like not much of a match, honestly, seeing as they're going through all these people at Survivor Series and just thinking, okay, these two are outperforming everybody, and it's no joke at this point. But then it's like WWE for so long, they didn't have legit women's wrestling. It was just something that was out there to basically say, yeah, we have that, but it wasn't real. It was just something to be on a screen. And then finally Women's Revolution comes around and it's like, oh, hey, women's wrestling so much better now. It's like, okay, Japan already had it right in the 80s. Why didn't they just follow suit? You know what I mean?
I mean, a lot of it's marketing. It's sad to say, but a lot of it is. America at that time that's not what they were looking for, and there unfortunately wasn't anyone that was able to cram it down their throat the way that the women's revolution women did. I mean, in Japan too, it's just the way wrestling is looked at in general as more of a sport and as more of like an athletic endeavor. Not necessarily, of course, they don't look at it as a competition, but they look at it as athletic. So the way that they kind of viewed it, and I mean, also you got to look at the fact too that like AJW at certain points in time was so big, mostly more in like the late 70s and 80s than in the 90s. But a big part of why they were big was because of like the extracurriculars of the Crush Gals, like all the music and stuff that in the earlier parts of AJW. Honestly, I would say up until the very late 80s, sometime during the 90s, a lot of their like boom periods, as far as like attendance and as far as major popularity on television, was due to women having their careers as singers and stuff outside of the ring, and then bringing fans into that. During the 90s, it was. They still had that, because they tried to push Mima Shimoda and Minami Toyota as the Tokyo Sweethearts, a singing group. Like they were trying to make them the next Crush Gals when they were, were really young in their careers. But the 80s or the 90s portion, those women, there wasn't as much. So all of that, is from the in-ring work rate. The popularity of that became from there. Not to say that, the work rate of any of the earlier women was any worse, but they had, it was great. It was coming in from different areas. They got the wrestling fans and the girls that were fans of their singing. In the 90s, there wasn't really as much of the younger female, like teenage crowd. It was all people who were fans of just the in-ring work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm glad that at least we're at where we're at now. You can turn on the TV and actually see women's wrestling as it should be. You are seeing legitimate wrestling rather than, I don't know, mud wrestling and stuff like that because somebody's, when they're trying to go with the Jerry Springer show route and all that kind of stuff. I'm just happy to see that we're finally at that point where, Japan and America both have, hey, the talent is here. This isn't
a big
standard.
part of it is making sure the talent and it's being done right. For me, and it's not like I'm alone on this, but Timeless Toni Storm, her story arc, the way she's presented her character, her matches, it's like the whole package. But not only that, she was given the time on TV to build that whole package. It wasn't just little things here and there, and then you have to try to put it all together yourself. They gave her enough time to put it together, and that's really what the women needed was just the TV time, to be able to show what they had to offer to the audiences, and you see what happens. That's one of the best storylines in wrestling. Her whole story arc. From the end of where she was doing the Radicals with Saraya and Ruby Soho in AEW, and then she shifted into this character. Honestly, that's where it hits for me because it's got everything I like. It's got the Hollywood stuff. It's got wrestling. The character is great. The way she commits to it. Yeah, just everything, just all encompassing. But like I said, that doesn't come about if you don't give someone like that. If you try to squeeze all of that into 2 or 3 minute segments on TV once every other week, that comes from giving the time and the attention to allow these things to grow. Okay, you get, maybe you don't get great ratings the first segment or 2 or whatever, because things need to build.
Mm-hmm.
Most TV shows, I mean, I'm not this way because I have a small attention span, but most TV shows, the first couple episodes aren't very good. The story needs to build up and stuff like that. I'm not like that. You need to catch me right away. I don't got a lot of time in life. But I know a lot of people are like that. Like they're willing to take that. You need to get a little bit, to give a little bit of that time. And, especially in WWE, but like in 2001, after they bought WCW, they had too many wrestlers. They certainly didn't have the time to give to 90% of their talent, let alone focus time on women's wrestling, which they had to develop still at that time.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't remember there being like a WCW women's champion at any point. I don't remember seeing much of anything for that,
Not many of the matches took place on WCW shows.
True.
Devil Masami was the last WCW women's champion. She won that on a Gaia show.
Oh, wow.
And I literally have I've been looking, and hopefully I will, but I can't find pictures of it.
Really?
Yeah,
so,
like I know it happened. I know all the, you know what I mean? Everything's confirmed. I just would like to see a picture of her with the title.
Do you think she might have one?
Find it. They might. No, I feel like Akudo had the belt in Japan because I know she had a few matches with it, but I don't. I mean, that's actually a pretty good question.
Maybe we can ask at some point, or ask Kino, like, hey, can you text her, see if maybe she's got it?
Well, I know who you can ask about that stuff. Sonny Ono.
Interesting
He was
idea.
managing her in WCW for her run. He managed almost all the Japanese. Oh, he managed just any Asian character in WCW at any given point in time. He was like their Mr. Fuji. But yeah, he was her manager, and he was definitely. Chigusa was over there, but she wrestled with face paint on under a weird name like Zero or something.
I didn't see too much of that, but I'd like to at some point. I need to go back and watch more old WCW and stuff, man. I was watching a lot of Nitro for a while before WWE Network like went off the air and was like done in the UK. And I remember seeing like, okay, Bull Nakano is coming out. Okay, I'm seeing Akira Hakudo, and I'm seeing others that I'm like, wow, I've never heard of these people. And that was before I was even like doing the podcast stuff really too seriously. But I just remember like just seeing the way that these women looked and the way they towered over opponents. Sometimes I'm like, wow, they're bringing a different ball game. Because I think it was Starrcade. That was one of those that it was like, oh yeah, we're bringing, stars from the Far East over to compete with the Americans. And it's like, okay, they were doing something interesting at the time. I actually liked watching WCW at the time. It was something different. I didn't get to see Hog Wild, but I did get to see, all of a couple of those pay-per-views. I didn't get crazy far into it. I got through, I think, 1995 and then started 96, if I remember right.
That's those. They had that tag tour or the title tournament for the women that you were just talking about, where they brought some of the women over from Japan. They never even really finished that. Like some of those matches, I don't think ever, like to my knowledge, some of those matches didn't happen, and they just kind of made it so that she got the title. But like Okuto Akudo was in that twice too. Because she was in it as herself, but she was also in it as her Japanese gimmick, Reina Jabuki.
I could see it. I could definitely see it happening. But man, it's amazing how much that they were just underutilized at the time, and the American crowd just didn't do enough. I don't feel like to really keep bringing them back.
I see that. I for WCW, I want to give at least them a little bit more credit. I think they were trying. But I think there was so much going on over there at the time. And you got to remember, that was a time when they were picking up like Hogan and all those guys who had like certain things guaranteed in their contracts. They had a certain amount of time. They had certain things that were going on. I think that there was too much going on in WCW, and that it got like, as much as people cared, it got put to the wayside, not on purpose, but because of other things that were more important to them going on. It seemed like they really tried to do something with that. I mean, even WWF, what was it? I feel like it was 95. It might have been 96 when they had that the Survivor Series match with Aja Kong and Kyoko and Alundra Blaze and all them. They tried at different points in time, but I don't think there was ever like a full commitment the way you had Stephanie McMahon like during the Women's Revolution being like, okay, well, this is my project right now. This is what I want to focus on getting off the ground. I think they had just people who were like, oh, it'd be a really good idea if we got this. They started the ball rolling and then got into different things like a title tournament. And then we're like, oh crap, what do? We don't have time to finish this.
Yeah, definitely hear that. It seemed like they would start something, they'd get the ball rolling a little bit, and then it's like, oh, well, doesn't matter anyways. We got this storyline going with...
Here, just throw the belt on whoever. Let's make it work.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's annoying, but it is what it is. And it is kind of fun to reminisce and just go back on that kind of stuff. And it is interesting talking about like they weren't really given the time as well. Because mentioning that, I believe it was Layla who I had interviewed who had said like, yeah, the Divas era, it was like you came in and they might yell to you as they're like making changes to scripts like, hey girls, you got 6 minutes total. And it's like, well, what am I going to do with that? You know, you have to make your entrances. So that's probably like 1 or 2 minutes at the minimum. So then that leaves you with what, 3-4 minutes maybe? So then you got to get in the ring, have your match in that time, be done, get whatever stipulation or whatever they want in with it, whatever little storyline piece that they wanted, and then be done with it. So yeah, it just sucks that for so long it was like wasn't really taken seriously over here, you know?
No, and that's not enough time. That's not really given the chance to succeed. Just because you have a chance there, that's not a chance to succeed. That's small. Honestly, it's really just a chance to not succeed at that point when you're not given that much. You got to think about like even like Molly Holly, who had to like be like, okay, I'll get my head shaved so we can have a women's match at WrestleMania. Like it took women like that and people like that who were willing to take a chance and willing to be like, okay, screw it, let me do something so that you can, I can get out there and put this out there. Luckily, like you said, luckily we live in a world where that's not the case anymore. But I think a lot of it has to do with, barriers being broken down and it is, I don't want to overspeak when it comes to like the early women's wrestling in America, but Moolah did really control a lot of how it was and trained a lot of the girls and controlled a lot of the business aspects. And I think that's the reason why Japan was ahead. It was only because girls like Leilani and Judy, Wendy Richter, Medusa, they went over there and fell in love with pro wrestling over there. If you hear, like when I talk to Judy and Leilani, the way they talk about Japan and wanting to go over there and their time over there. If you have Leilani on any like social media, if she finds a picture of her in Japan, she posts it immediately. There's at least 2 or 3 a week. It was different for them. It was taken more seriously. They could have harder hitting matches. They could have matches more to the style that they wanted to. So there was, definitely, yes, culturally there was something different going on between women's wrestling in the States and in Japan, but there was also a lot of underlying mitigating factors that were business related that I feel like unfairly kept some of the women in America down. And it was just a kind of situation. I mean, I don't want to get my theories about that go real kind of crazy into all McMahon stuff and Moolah stuff. But
I mean,
yeah,
you're not
honestly,
wrong.
it's good. It's good that that is kind of. You know what? Honestly, man, I'm not the biggest let me protest something, let me complain about stuff person, but I do like it. I did like the fact that when they announced that it was going to be like the Moolah, women's tournament, that a lot of people were like, no, dude, no, you can't. I do like the fact that someone stood up in there. I mean, certain things have their time and place, and I'm not the biggest person when it comes to talking about politics or religion or any of that kind of stuff, but what's right is right. And anyone who knows a little bit history about women's wrestling in America knows that as much as as much as Moolah did for professional wrestling, she she also took a lot away from those women.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean, and did not allow them to reach their greatest potential. And she was supposed to be their teacher. As someone like I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, man, and like it's one thing that I always tell my guys, like I'm, you know, as a teacher, as a coach of anything, my job, if I'm any good and if I even care a little bit, is to make you better than me. And if I don't, I'm doing something wrong. I grew up like coming up in like a, you know, an earlier, I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 20 years now. And when I came up, it was a little bit, you know, some of these it was not prevalent in the United States. Like I had to drive around like crazy to find like my first coach because I couldn't find a black belt in jiu-jitsu within like 50 miles of my house. And then when you would go to these places, a lot of these guys were what I call like keeping secrets. They would have one or two things that they always knew they could get away with and do to somebody, so no one would ever be able to beat them. They kept their little tricks in their pocket just in case. And like, that's kind of what I feel like Moolah did to these girls. She helped them out just enough to get them to make her money, but all the little tricks and all the things that like really were important, she kept inside. And like, I feel it's a complete disservice. And if anything, it is kind of like, I don't want to overspeak too much or whatever, but as someone who teaches somebody anything, you know, I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that's, to me, that's a gift to be able to teach somebody something.
Yeah.
You know, and to not give it your all and not make it so that the people who are there learning from you, and especially in Moolah's case, paying a lot of money, and their hard-earned money coming in, to not give those people everything you can and the greatest opportunity to succeed is a crime to me. Like, you know, like a moral crime. To take something from someone and not give them what you should. I think, but in saying that took away from the world of wrestling, because look how many more years it took for women's wrestling in the United States to really find its place, and for women to actually have the same skills. Like I said, Judy, Leilani, some of those older, you know, the older generation, they had to go to Japan. That Attitude Era generation, they didn't have that opportunity. And it shows. It shows. You see the work rate of, you know, the difference between the women who were, that, you know, like Leilani, who went over there, won titles, was respected by their audiences, came back, mixed everything she learned, and had a fully rounded wrestling. I mean, in MMA we said game, but I mean wrestling repertoire. That would be the best way to put it. So yeah, I don't like to praise Moolah very much or say a lot of good things about her, unfortunately.
I mean, I don't blame you. And like after watching the Dark Side of the Ring episode about her, I was even more on the side of, okay, it's probably a good thing that they didn't name this event after her that was coming up, you know? Because at that point it was like, from the way that it looks, she kind of held down the business from evolving past her because she didn't want it to move beyond how great that she thought that she was, or as great as her abilities were, I guess we could say.
I think that's the best way to say it. She didn't want the business to move beyond her abilities. I honestly, that, like, you hit the nail on the head there, man. And that's taking out the salacious stuff part of the story. That's just talking about the in-ring and like the business part about it. And it is, I like her, like there's a lot of stuff with her husband, her ex-husband, Billy Wolf, or whatever his name was, with like stuff between him and Billy Wolf, or him and Mildred Burke or whatever. Cause she had, there's a lot of stuff there, you know, it seems like the two of them really kind of tried to, you know, just have a stronghold over it.
Jeez, seems horrible, but you know, there was a lot that was mentioned in the Dark Side of the Ring about her, and there's some things that we're not going to cover here because, hey, there's a lot of it that's still speculation. We can't necessarily say, yeah, that definitely happened, no, that didn't happen, but if it did, it's some pretty downright horrible shit. Not gonna lie, but overall, I'm not gonna completely bash her because she is a big part of history at that point. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all sunshine and roses and it's all that good because, I mean, who she trained, there might have been one or two that really did shine well, but there's others that have some horrible, horrible experiences and horrible stories. Like Wendy Richter talked about how she got screwed out of her title, and turns out it was Moolah under a mask. She didn't even know that's who it was, sort of thing. In the whole script. Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, it's especially going back and doing a little bit more history and learning more about like Mildred Burke and like the things that she did. It's unfortunate because Mildred Burke should be more known than Moolah is.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially from the side of like, you know, the Japanese side. Mildred Burke, you know, Moolah went over there too, but Mildred Burke went over there and contributed. Mildred Burke went over there and taught and helped and tried to usher in a generation of wrestling, the generation that was. And I might even now just saying it out loud and thinking it, like maybe that's the reason why they were ahead of the Americans, is because Moolah didn't have very much influence over there. Mildred Burke did have a lot of influence.
Probably because, well, one was keeping the rest of the business from evolving. The other, I mean, she couldn't control two countries and how they did a sport unless she went back and forth between them and was the only teacher. But I'm glad that that's not how it was because, man, the talent would still be dismal to this day if that were the case.
And it's honestly, I just was watching, I have to watch the rest of it, the new Sorryism show.
Yeah.
Or whatever, just to see it, to see everyone there, like everyone that we saw at the JVA show. Jaguar, I don't think she wrestled. I think she was backstage. I saw some pictures of her. And just to see that, I mean, like not only Joshi, but American wrestling, like female wrestling, it's got nothing but the brightest of futures. And Makito's in Stardom now. So it gives me a reason to watch that because I always was a big, and still am a big Tokyo Joshi fan. I still have to say, out of all of the wrestling I've been to live, and I see a lot, I go to see GCW a lot and love GCW. But my favorite wrestling show of all time was a Tokyo Joshi show for WrestleMania weekend that GCW hosted, or whatever, out in Philadelphia a couple years ago. Most fun, most enjoyable experience, like without a doubt. And as much as I've been to AEW and stuff like that was such a great. Although, like I said, I'm a big GCW fan, and some of those shows, man, I've been to some of the bigger events. I watched, Nick Gage lose to Matt Cardona, and everyone walked out with like Red Bull and beer on their clothes because the whole ring got just trashed with people throwing stuff.
Jeez.
So I've been to a lot of their bigger shows. I wasn't at the Hammerstein shows, but they're like bigger shows for their events at their home in Atlantic City at the Showboat. Like all of them, Tokyo Joshi was one of the most fun shows I've ever been to. And then they had a Tokyo Joshi versus GCW show, which had Palm Harajuku teaming up with Aja Kong, which was a really awesome moment.
God, that sounds like an incredible event to be at. Now I'm kind of jealous of you. And I saw recently, I think TJPW, I believe they're
in Texas right now.
Oh, yeah. There was that one in Texas, but I believe they're about to run a show as well over in the UK, I believe.
Yes, I did see that too. I saw that yesterday. They're running a show with, I want to say Eve Pro Wrestling?
I think it's Eve, yeah.
That's all, man. There's so much good wrestling out there. Whether it's like the bigger companies or, the smaller companies. I mean, for any listeners out there, go and I live in New Jersey. I'm literally in the middle of Philadelphia, like equal distance to Philadelphia and New York. Like I get that I'm lucky when it comes to that. But like anywhere in the country you are, you can go and find pro wrestling somewhere. It might not be the best, but it'll go check out your local guys. Have a good time. It's you're not going to go see. It's not going to be WWE. You're not going to see pyrotechnics and lights. You're going to be in the high school, gymnasium sometimes or VFWs and stuff. But go looking to have a good time. If you go looking to have a bad time or think it's going to be like something corny, it's going to be a bad time and it's going to be corny. But you go and go to have fun and to enjoy it, and I guarantee you 9 times out of 10 you will. When there are bigger shows, like GCW travels all over the country, and then they're not specifically for everybody. It's mostly like death matches and stuff, and I definitely wouldn't suggest. I see a lot of kids in the audience. I definitely would never bring my niece or my nephew, until they were older to a show like that. But like they're great shows. They're a lot of fun, and they're made for a good small, like I don't want to say a small crowd because they get good crowds, but like an intimate sized crowd. Their shows are made for the arenas and for the places they're at. But there's so much good pro wrestling, and unfortunately, there's a lot of companies like DPW just kind of went on indefinite hiatus, which as we know is kind of like going under. So if you guys, if you have a chance, go and check out your local wrestling. You'll have a lot of guys, especially from AEW and stuff, that are coming through on these shows. It's some of the best fun that you can have. Tickets are usually really cheap. Just a good time all around, man. They always have a good time in an indie wrestling show. And then there is, you can, all over the country, you can see them everywhere, every weekend.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And something that I do want to say to listeners as well, don't think just because it's a small company that's going to be a bad product. All right. Like, okay, they don't have billions of dollars to dump into this to make it into huge stadiums and to seat more people and whatever else, or to have the absolute cleanest cameras and everything else. That's not what makes a good product. Venture out, go find your local indies and enjoy it. You can find so much stuff. And, me and I believe it was Elaine and my buddy Nick, you met Nick while we were in Japan and everything, we all went to a DDT show. I had no idea what I was really walking into, but man, it was hilarious and it was a great time.
I wish I'd been able to make that. We had interviews at that time, but DDT owns Tokyo Joshi. Love DDT. With what, let's say, like the Mania, actually that Mania weekend in Philadelphia, I was like, me and Rob have talked about this. We were online like 2 people away from each other, like getting in and meeting like Maki Ito and stuff. I remember like him, and especially if you put him and his brother and Phil together, like they're fairly like recognizable. When I met them later on, I was like, I know your face, you guys look familiar. But like, yeah, we were all at those shows together, 2 months before we actually met and became friends. That's what I'm saying too. Next time when you get a chance to come back to the States, when you have some time off, man, dude, come out. We'll go to you gotta go to Goski, of course, but we'll go to some good wrestling. Definitely go to some GCW or something out, while you're here. Hell
yeah. That'll be worth it, man.
Whenever you can get back stateside.
Yeah, I'll have to at some point, maybe this year or next.
Wrestle Magic.
So, I am going to ask you for a recommendation for the audience. It can be anything you want it to be. It can be movies, TV shows, video games, cat breeds, cactus variants, anything that you can think of that you would want to recommend for the audience. Just go for it, man.
Oh, wow. Recommendation for the audience. Can I give you 2?
You can give as many as you want, man. I don't care.
I can't just give you a movie because I don't like just promoting mindless self-indulgence. So I do want to give you, a book or something. Actually, you want to know what? Hold on, because I want to give you a good recommendation here, and this will go hand in hand with what we've been with Japan. I recently found an absolutely amazing street photographer from Japan that I've been looking up, and I want to get his name correct, so I'm looking it up right now.
Hey, take your time, man. Ain't no problem with that. Well, I guess while we're waiting on that for a second, I'll go ahead and my recommendation for this week, I'm going to have 2 as well, and I'm going to say you guys should go ahead and watch the original Toxic Avenger just for the hell of it. I will say don't have your kids in the room. Probably not a good idea. But it is one of those movies that don't expect a whole lot. Just turn your brain off, relax, just laugh at it a little bit. And then second recommendation is going to be just something that I've recently discovered because I just wanted to find a game that I could kind of turn my brain off, relax a little bit after work, not really have to care about anything, whether it's the story or anything that's going on. So I pulled out a fishing game that I found on Xbox Marketplace, and I was like, okay, it's free, it's on Game Pass, so why not? And then I just started messing around with that a little bit, and it's kind of relaxing and kind of fun just to play. I think it's called The Wild the Angler, and it's just something to do that's I can relax a little bit and not have to think so hard or really have to pay too much attention. I can just, okay, I'm casting. Okay, cool. I'm waiting for a bite. And you don't have to do too much. So yeah, I recommend just relax a little bit, guys. We all need it once in a while. But go on ahead, man. What was the name of that photographer?
Tatsu Suzuki. He's a street photographer from Japan, which is in Japan, as you know, like it's a different culture out there. Street photography is very much like depending on how there's two kind of theories behind it. It's one is be completely invisible and just kind of try to capture things from afar so while no one's noticing. The other theory is kind of like be up in everyone's face. And in Japan, that's not as looked at as a good thing, but he is much more that style. Some of the work that I've just recently even just learned about him. But the work that I've seen of his is absolutely stunning. It's all in black and white. I'm a big fan of I'm a big photography person in general, even just through cinematography and film stuff. But yeah, absolutely incredible work. He's like a crazy weird Japanese Vivian Maier. So if you get a chance, he's still around and he's still alive. He's actually was I guess he got kicked out. He was being sponsored by Fuji and got kicked out because of criticism for how he does his work. But if you get a chance, Tatsu Suzuki, check out his work. It's like I said, I'm just learning about him now, but it's absolutely breathtaking. Some of this guy's photographs, it's really, really caught me. And I have to give I will give a GCW recommendation. If you have a chance to watch any of the Nick Gage / Matt Cardona matches, whether it's their title match, whether it's a tag team match with Nick Gage and Maki Ito versus Steph DeLander and Matt Cardona, or the the Danhausen match, Nick Gage and Maki Ito versus Danhausen and Ramhausen. Any of those three matches, I was at all of them. But they were all absolutely amazing and fun matches to watch. That whole event, the spring break, from that year, Joey Janela's spring break from 2024, just an overall amazing card. Masato Tanaka and Suzuki versus the girl who beat up her boyfriend and Rina Yamashita. Is it Masha Slamovich? I shouldn't have said it like that. But no, actually, I like her. I like Masha Slamovich a lot. I don't care about super people's little 20-year-old relationship problems.
It is what it is. It's not really my problem to really look into, but we don't condone any of those things here on Wrestle Magic either way. But all right, man. So I do appreciate you being on. Do you have any last messages for the audience or anything before we go as well? Just wanted to throw that out there.
Check out jumpingbombangels.com. It has the 2 sizzle reels for the documentary. The documentary has a Facebook page. As soon as I figure out how to make a separate page for Instagram, it'll have one of those too. So check that out. Stay up to date on social media. Wrestle Magic is involved, so I'm sure you guys will have, you guys always put everything out. Most importantly, go check out the website. Just check out, I think that anyone who gets to see the sizzle reels will understand really what we're going for with this documentary. Going to have some new stuff out soon, but it really encompasses and gives the feel and the emotion behind, what we're going for. So please check it out if you haven't already. Go back and watch AJW when you have a chance on YouTube, and listen to more Wrestle Magic podcast with Maverick.
Appreciate that, man. And I do also want to take a second to say thank you for allowing me to be the associate producer of the documentary. I think it's a huge honor to be able to have my name along with yours in this film, and just to be able to say, I was involved too, guys. everybody else that ever knew me growing up, yeah, where's your name in a movie? Where are you at?
Thank you, man, for coming, being a part of this. You know what I mean? It says a lot to the Jumping Bomb Angels legacy, but also to Itsuki's character that like we've all come together, because of her.
Yep.
I mean, and through her, and like, we have a great relationship. Kino is like my big sister, man. Like,
oh yeah,
I want to throw her out a window a couple of times, but more often than not, man, she's someone that like I care about and I know cares about me and always like looks out, for me and like for everybody, for all of us. Like, in a way, Kino's mom, like, this has been an awesome journey, but it's been because of the people that we've all been surrounded by. And, it's something special. You don't get a lot this often in life. I'm 43 years old, man. I've never been in this kind of situation with these kind of people where like everything comes together in such a way that it feels natural and like it's just nothing's forced, nothing's like crazy. Everything just, we all mesh well together, and everything that we've been doing, collectively has been growing and becoming, just coming into fruition even more and more. So, I mean, congratulations on the podcast and everything. Congratulations to everybody else with Wrestle Magic. And yeah, just, we just got to keep doing what we're doing. Because like you said, it's all out of love, man. Like that's money, fame, all those outside desires will only take you so hard before mentally or physically you break. When you're speaking from the heart and everything's coming from the heart, you'll push beyond way more than you ever thought you could without even breaking a sweat.
Agreed, my friend. Agreed. But yeah, I can't wait for the film to come out. And then on top of that, you guys already know how we usually end the show. Follow me on Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it, @MaintenanceMav. And then also try to follow the Wrestle Magic Pod, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're all over the place. We're on pretty much everything, just @Wrestle Magic Pod. And you guys know how I always end the show. Do something nice for somebody. You never know who needs it out there. Your buddy's having a rough day. Go ahead, grab him a Gatorade or a Monster. Just hand it to him. Say, hey, man, let's just get through it today. I know it's a rough shift. We'll get through, though. And, just help a brother out. And with that, in the words of my old buddy, Memphis Mark, we're out.
Wrestle Magic.